welcome back to Down Memory Lane. Today I'm gonna start by saying one thing I'm absolutely certain is true. Whoever you are, you watching this video, you know who Mario is. Whether you love him or you don't care about him, whether you like video games or not, you know who he is. And I believe he's the only video game character for whom I can really say that. I mean, he's part of the names you really have to know about. Like Star Wars, Batman, Harry Potter. All this popularity comes from today's game. I'm gonna talk about the most important video game in history, if it's not the second after Pong, Super Mario Bros. And I think that to really understand its importance, we're going to have a little history detour here. But if you just want to skip ahead to the review, you can just skip to this time here. Somewhere. As I said in the last episode, the beginning of the 80s, video games were getting really huge and Atari was sitting on the video game throne. In the arcades, but also on consoles. But competition comes in fast. And sadly, it's not always managed by video game fans, but more often than not by businessmen who know most of all how to count. So, as time goes on, well, this happened. To add to this ton of console that only had a really minor differences, games are always done faster so that they could come out faster, so they could sell faster. Eventually, game designers only have a few weeks to make a game. Alone, at a time when this is seen as simplicity. A long-term strategy? What's that? Well, you reap what you sow. Many of the worst games of all time appeared in this period. And what even promises of best arcade titles at homes are disappointing messes. At Atari, a group of annoyed programmers who really had a passion for games left the company to found the first company specializing in video games themselves and not consoles, Activision. And eventually in North America, no one is interested in video game consoles. They're only seen as a passing fad, and this is the beginning of what will commonly be called the video game crash of 1983. Now, there are two things to understand here. It's not only a few games that were bad, but the most sold one. Even the few good games pretty much drowned in the massive tidal wave of gaming mess. And eventually it's millions of game cartridges that will not be sold at all or will be returned to the game makers. You know, for years rumors speculated that Atari literally burned hundreds of thousands of unsold game cartridges in a New Mexico landfill. Well, it's been found last April. Second thing to understand, we need to call this period by its full name. The North American Console Video Game Crash. Let's cross the Pacific to see what's going on over there. In Japan, the arcades are still in good health, and the beginning of the 80s is when you start to see current giants like Capcom from Capsule Computers and Konami, who's starting to have some real success in this industry. As for Nintendo, they continue what they started with the Donkey Kong sequels I mentioned in the last episode, and Mario Brothers. Here, Mario is now a plumber from New York. He can now land from much higher, thank God. And he is now accompanied by his brother Luigi to rid sewers of monsters. That includes turtles that we'll see later. Yes, for those who forgot, Mario is a plumber. On July 15 of 1983, Nintendo will release in Japan the Famicom, with a strange controller for its time, and it will get an unprecedented success over there. And 2 years later they will try to get it out for North American market, who is, I remind you, completely turned off by video game consoles. For this, they have a 3-step plan. Number 1. To get public trust. Every single cartridge packaging from the first wave of games will feature gameplay graphics on the front cover, which gives some pretty ugly cover arts, but you know what you get yourself into. Number 2. To keep that trust, Nintendo creates the Nintendo Seal of Quality, so that they can know what gets on their console. It's not absolute, but, well, it's better than before. They start by testing out the waters by getting the console out in New York City on October 18, 1985, with 18 games that were already out in Japan. That includes Ice Climber, Duck Hunt with its light gun peripheral, Excitebike, and Golf. Word of mouth makes it pretty much a success, and in February 1986, the Nintendo Entertainment System, or the NES, or the good old Nintendo, comes out for the rest of North America, and then in September in Europe. But Nintendo does have a weapon of mass domination up their sleeve that is included with most NES boxes. Shigeru Miyamoto has been working on 2 huge projects, and is the first one that we're going to see today. Nintendo's new music composer Koji Kondo has the chance to work alone on this title, and he will create one of the most recognizable music themes ever made. You can ask any adult and their grandparents if they know this theme song, and I believe the result will prove the success of this game, Super Mario Bros. For instance, I've discovered video games with Super Mario Bros. When my grandparents brought an NES for the family in 1986 or 87. For the time, the levels were huge and the Mushroom Kingdom comes to life with a lot of vivid colors, whether it's day or night, from the bottom of the sea all the way to treetops without forgetting its dark dungeons. But now, we have to remember the mindset of the people at the time. When the game came out, some conversations like that must have happened. So kid, what's this game about?
Have to get up there and dodge these barrels to save the girl.
Yeah, and that one, what is it?
You have to help the frog get to the other side of the street.
Yeah, and in this one you have to ram a wall while sliding on lava.
In this one, you go through a plane while dodging monsters, stomping on them or tossing fireballs at them. You can also explore the sky to find a hidden treasure. You go swim in the sea while dodging fishes and octopuses that attack you. You go through a bridge while dodging flying fishes. You also go through a castle full of lava with a giant fire-breathing turtle at the end. And that's one world on 8.
But I digress. Let's look at the manual to see what this game is about. The Mushroom Kingdom is invaded by Koopas, a tribe of turtles known for their black magic, and turns everyone to stones, bricks, and that. Only the Princess Toadstool, or Peach in Japan, can reverse the spell, but yep, she's been kidnapped by King Koopa, called Bowser by the North American team. Mario hears about it and decides to save the Mushroom Kingdom. Well, that's what it says, he hears about it. The story is actually quite developed for its time. From today's standpoint, the game sets a lot of basic elements. We find mushrooms that make you grow or give you a life depending on the color, the fire flower makes you throw fireballs, and a star makes you invincible and does... You find coins everywhere, and when you get 100 of them, you have a 1-up. You can find secret passages with a whole lot of them, and items are often found hidden in bricks that makes you commit a genocide of transformed toads, and makes this passage quite disturbing when you think about it. As for the monsters, there are of course the Goombas that get squashed with one of the best sounds in all of gaming, and Koopas with their shells that make for some really efficient weapons, and whoa! All the enemies in this game are still present in current Mario titles, and that includes the nightmarish Hammer Brothers. This one right before the end of the game is a 1-up sponge. One thing I've noticed while playing this game again is the day and night cycle of the worlds. If you follow that, you will notice that Mario went through the Mushroom Kingdom in 3 days and 2 nights without sleep, meaning that the ending should have looked like this. Mario! A second player can control Luigi, who is exactly the same as Mario, especially when he throws fireballs. You play alternatively, and when one player dies, the other one plays while the other hopes that the other one dies quickly. I think that Super Mario Bros. Is a game that aged pretty well thanks to its simplicity. But I know this game more than my hometown, so I asked my nephew and my niece to play it. They're not used to playing games and they loved it. Its variety always keeps the run and jump mechanic. I mean, its biggest gimmick is swimming. Even though I think everyone should give this game a try, I just want to give you a little warning here. This is not the easiest Mario title. Compared to some of the most recent games, it doesn't give you that many coins and 1-ups. But if you take your time and stay careful, you should not have too much trouble. It's still quite easy compared to NES games that will be influenced by it though. Another thing is that saving your game doesn't exist yet, but it's coming, like, real soon. So if you get a game over, it's back to World 1 with you. Here are little tips to help you get through it. If you get good in this game and you get tired of restarting the first 2 or 3 worlds, at the end of the second level there's a warp zone to help you skip a few worlds at once. There are a few more, but I'll stop there. Just don't skip through the whole game, I mean, where's the fun in that? Other possible skip, if you get a game over and you get back to the title screen, hold the select button and press start, and it will take you right back to the world you died in. Last, there's the famous unlucky Koopa trick. When you are Big Mario at the end of World 3-1, stomp that final turtle at the right angle for points that will turn into lives. Get as many as you want up to 128. After that, it's game over. Nintendo has sold over 40 million Super Mario Bros. Cartridges. This number only includes NES cartridges, no downloads or subsequent versions. It will stay the most sold video game ever for over 20 years. When this game came out, everyone talked about it, not just gamers. You wanted to be cool in school, you needed an NES with Super Mario Bros. In it. After this game, a lot of game designers will be inspired and will start making games for the NES that will become huge classics themselves. But we will let them the time to make them before we talk about. Next episode, we will see the other project Miyamoto was working on, an exploration and adventure based game. Yeah, as impressive as Super Mario Bros. Was, this was his action game. And as you already know, this is just the beginning. While you wait, you can play Super Mario Bros. On NES of course, but also on Game Boy Color or download it on the Wii, Wii U or 3DS. You can also find its remake in Super Mario All-Stars on NES or harder to find on the Wii. This version also has a save feature. Personally, Super Mario Bros. Was the first game I actually remember playing. But I'm curious to know, what was your first game? You can answer in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time. Peace!